Check, check. Hi, sorry we took a minute. I have two pairs of specs, all that poetry writing and filmmaking. Guys,
Why do you need two pairs though at the same time?
one on the bottom so I can read your poetry, the one on top so I can look at you.
But don't they do that in one pair of specs now?
They do, but that's too much technology for a poet. So this is the book that we are here to celebrate, Untamed. And I've known Sandhya for a while, and I couldn't think of a better title. You said there were a few before you settled on Untamed.
Yeah.
Is there a story to that? Is there a story to why you rejected those and arrived at this title?
Actually, the first title rejected me because it was already taken. So, and I'm glad it was taken because in retrospect, I don't think there's a title that suited me more. The second one was a terrible title. So I'm so glad that was taken too. I would not pick up a book titled that. I wonder how that other book has done. So I decided to not. And the one thing that I've learned in life, because I'm such an impulsive, spontaneous, impatient human being, is that I have taken my late brother's advice and said, just sleep over it for one night. And then something usually comes, and then I woke up one morning, and this was what came to me. So I just went with it. And there is another book by this title, sadly, but somehow they were okay with it. So
This sort of floated to the top in a Google search.
it just it just resonated with me, actually, my life and who I am.
I'll jump right into things. So there's something in the very honest and ripped away approach to your writing that reminded me of. Is this echoing?
Because you're close to the mic. That is why we need to be there. Better
Better?
now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
So there's a poet called Thomas Transtromer,
Hmm.
and there's a line of his that has haunted me all my life, and it kept coming back to my mind when I was reading the book. He said, "You drank some darkness and became visible."
You
Drank some
drank
darkness
some darkness.
and became visible.
How lovely.
So there's that ripped away sort of approach to putting these words on paper. I just want to know that, given that you haven't written before the time when you sat down and wrote these, what brought you to this, and what made you feel that this should be put out into the world? Because most people, they sort of filter it after they've written it down. You just ripped it out, put it out there.
I just felt that there's too much shame and guilt and judgment attached to grieving, pain, sadness. Everybody's expected to always be joyful, look happy, be lively, be bubbly. There's just that one thing, one person that people want to see. Uh, Personally, I've always had this image of being this lively, bindas, bold, fearless sort of person. But I was also a very vulnerable, fearful, sad human being at times, which I was so scared to let people see because I didn't want that image to break. There was an image of mine, and I was just playing along with that image. I wasn't being me. So I just wanted to go back to who I was before the world and the industry got to me. And I started realizing that I'm not alone in this. There are a lot of people, because of the conditioning that we have, bachpan se rona nahi. You know, it's just wrong. It's something that's considered wrong and bad. Okay? And it's not like somebody was doing it out of spite, but that's what it is. You know? And I just wanted to make talking to and about the dark and difficult times guilt free. You know, I wanted to take the shame away from being brokenhearted. Uh, I just got tired, exhausted of pretending. And I think then COVID and the losses and everything that happened really propelled me into allowing that pain to come through and allowing that expression to follow, irrespective of what people thought of me. I just had to work on the courage of being disliked and judged, and that's precisely what this is, I think.
There's also a coming to terms with a lot of grief.
Yeah.
And grief often, at least even for me, grief and rage are my two biggest motivators. So, could you tell us a little bit about the grief that led to something like this? Because, grief, like you're also a stage artist, you're a stand up comic, and it's not like you do stand up comedy to make people laugh. You do stand up comedy to put your rage out. I have seen your pieces. So, why this medium to address grief?
Because this came to me very naturally. Because it's my diary, my pen and paper was the only safe space where I wasn't being judged and I felt heard. I did not have to rely on a human being, and COVID anyway made that very easy, where you had to go inside, you had to be alone, you had to talk to yourself, and I just found it so safe to write without
Sure.
the feeling of being misunderstood, without the feeling of who's thinking what of me. I didn't even think that these words are going to escape that diary, that notebook, or that room or that house. Forget coming out in a book. But it just felt safe, Devashish, because I got tired of being misunderstood and I got tired of people telling me, Are yaar, you're such a lively, fun person. Why are you being so quiet? Are yaar. I was just supposed to be that one person. And that really became exhausting for me because I started feeling like I'm pretending constantly. I'm acting on camera and I'm acting off camera because I'm not necessarily a happy person all the time. I have rage. I get angry. I want to be able to express this. Why is an angry young man okay and why is an angry young woman a bitch? You know? So I just, me, you can't put me in a box. And I've been in a box for way too long. So yeah, I had to break that box and come out. And whatever words flew out of me, are here.
Interestingly, the pandemic was a turning point for every artist on the planet.
Every
I know,
human being
yeah,
on the planet.
yeah. No, by artist, what I'm trying to drive at is that something shifted in most artists' voices. So I've been writing poetry since I was 5. It's my first go-to medium of expression. I stopped writing in the pandemic. The last poem I've written is 5.5 years ago. And then I see this book that actually came out of a person who didn't write before the pandemic and started writing during the pandemic. It's almost like,
Just before, actually.
yeah, so this sounds like a baton got handed over. So I just feel like there's something cosmic in us sitting here because the last poem I wrote was just before the pandemic, and you
You
started
handed
writing
over
just
the baton to me.
yeah. So I just feel
Take it
special
forward.
sharing this stage here with you.
I'm, um, I'm happy that you're doing this, actually. Because even though we don't talk and meet all the time, we've always had a shared energy. And may that be our fury, may that be our oversensitivity, may that be our social anxiety. But I think I'm happy. I'm happy that you're here and doing this.
Can we hear a couple of your poems on that note?
Why don't you start by reading out one?
No, no. First, we got to hear it in your voice.
Oh my God,
I've
I
marked
hate.
my favorites. Then read one, then I'll read the other.
When I look at a poem, I remember the moment. It's so strange. I remember that experience. I remember that day. I remember that feeling. I remember the weather. Uh, I literally even remember what I ate that morning. It's so vivid. On one such day when I found it very hard to get up, I was jammed with fear and uncertainty. 2020, a day after my birthday in March, on the 29th of March, I think I wrote this. I woke up feeling hopeless, chained in despair. I tried so hard to think of one reason to get up. I got up, and the reasons followed. You know, they always follow. They always come. If you can just pull yourself up, something comes. And that day, actually, 28th of March, my birthday was a terrible day. I was alone and locked up and all of that, feeling very sorry for myself at that point and uncertain because we didn't know what COVID was and we didn't know how long this was going to be. 29th, I woke up in absolute despair, you know, and yeah, this came, and then 29th became like my birthday because it became such a fabulous day. I also did a very silly thing that day. I went on to Facebook that I hadn't been for very long, and I said, hey guys, it was my birthday yesterday, and I don't keep alcohol in my house. Can somebody please lend me a beer? I swear that was my post. And some producer, Shiladitya Bora, replies to me saying, hey Sandhya, I've seen you walking around Versova. I think we live close by. What building are you in? And that time we weren't allowed to leave our homes. But I wanted to celebrate my birthday with that one beer. I was hell-bent on it. So I did this, and he dropped beer with my 2 pints of beer with my watchman. Of course, I sprayed them, washed them rigorously. And then I had the beer. And see, I got up, and I managed to get somebody who I did not know to deliver 2 pints of beer to me. I drank one a week. One on the 29th of March and one the next week. Felt good. Sometimes it's something as silly as that.
No, it's not silly. Something that small at a time like the pandemic was very life-affirming. In fact, before we read another one, and basis the story you just said, I had a quote that, again, a favorite poet called Billy Collins. He said something beautiful. So, you know, from all the grief and the rage that brings you to words like this, these words do what Billy Collins said. He said, there was nothing under my skin but light. If you cut me, I could shine.
Beautiful.
So I see a little bit of that.
That's, you know, it's like Cohen said, right? There's a crack where the light comes in. So, you know, it's where you are broken, where the light comes in. And I used to tell myself, I said, great, if there's one crack and there's light going in, be completely broken and the light will just keep entering your body and you'll just be light. So, you know, that fear of being broken left me in doing this, in writing this book, in living this, in actually not writing this book, in living this book. I didn't know I was writing a book. I was just living my journey and I was allowing myself to be broken, and instead of being scared of being broken and then who's going to put the pieces together and how am I going to get up, you know. Maya Angelou said something wonderful. I really admired her writing. She said, I can be changed by what happens to me, but I refused to be reduced by it. And that for me is one of the most inspirational things I've read, because you feel so reduced for being weak. My softening, because I'm this really bindas, bold, almost loud human being, when I walk into a room, my softening was considered weakening, you know, for the longest time. And I would read her, and I would read Mary Oliver and Anai Nin and Pablo Neruda, you know, and the fearless, visceral writing, you know, gave me the freedom to be able to allow myself to write the way I want to.
Check. All the names you mentioned have been broken before they let the light in or seal some of the cracks,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah, or be careful all your life and keep brushing the carpet, you know, which I refuse to do. I've anyway not been that person. But I just yanked the Band-Aid off, you know, and I bled profusely. And I said, it's okay. And I just stepped back, and thank God for COVID, I didn't have to do much explaining. Of course, there were friends who got worried and landed up in the house under the building and started calling me. But I really believe that that time was so hard that there was only one way to go, break and start again.
On that note, poem number 2.
My poems are very short. They're just 3 or 4 lines. There's only one, I think, which is 10 or 15 lines, most of them. Did you want me to read I'm Okay or Above All? I'm okay, but the autocorrect still spells your name. I'm okay, but there's a dent in my heart where your head rested. I'm okay, but the crow at the window still calls out to you. I'm okay. The bed has extra pillows to protect me from falling. I'm okay. I just lay here breathing your pain, feeling one. I'm okay. I remember the person who I wrote this for, actually. So, even terrible relationships help you. That's all I can say at the end of the day.
The extra pillows that saving you from falling were heartbreaking. The extra pillows that now save you from falling off the bed. Story in that one line.
I felt this, Devashish. I felt all of this, and yeah. The good thing is, it's been my superpower to feel everything. It's also extremely painful because I feel everything, even if when my friends tell me it's not your business and it has nothing to do with you. But I feel it. Wherever in the world it's happening, I feel it. And sometimes it's really painful because you get up and you don't know why you're sad. You don't know why you're angry. But some collective energy is affecting you, and it's just something that I thought was a terrible thing, and then I started realizing that it's actually my superpower to be able to feel what somebody else is feeling without knowing them.
You just summarized all good poets. That is a superpower that most poets don't realize. Because poets feel things at a certain frequency that normal people can't.
Yeah.
Hence the poetry.
My friends took some time to understand that about me, and fortunately, I have a handful of friends now, but they absolutely get it. And now that I have a book, they get me even more because they said, you used it well. You didn't lay down and die.
So I'm going to quote you. There's a little interview you gave The Punch. The Punch.
The Punch.
Yeah, I did my homework. So there was this one thing that you said I want to share, and then we'll talk about that. Because also in that interview, the interviewer Shireen, she said after years of speaking other people's lines, Untamed is Sandhya Mridul speaking in her own. And then you say, my father raised me to be equal to my older brothers. I was the youngest, the only girl, but he'd say, if they can do it, so can she. My mother would worry. It's 11 o'clock, she's still downstairs playing with the boys. And he'd say, her brothers are there too, it's fine. She's climbing the wall, it's fine. She's climbing a tree, it's fine. That was my dad. He never let me be boxed in. It started as nature. Then it became a choice. Then it turned into rebellion, and eventually when life threw enough at me, all the rest just fell away. The masks, the pretense, gone. There was no reason left to pretend. Tell us a little. Because, sorry, I just want to finish this. In Angry Indian Goddesses, there's a scene where you're looking for network. The next thing we do is we see you in a tree.
Yes.
So that was you improvising and these dots connecting across time and space?
Yes, yes. I grew up like that. I grew up very fearless, actually, and then life made me very fearful because I think I saw losses far too young. Started with dad, who was, I was very young. I was only 13 when he went, and it was just devastating for me. But this is true, it's true where it becomes fear, and then it becomes a part of your journey, and then that fear turns into anger, then it turns into rebellion, and you don't even know what it's rebellion against, but it comes into your being, you know, till you reach a point, and it literally all just falls away, when you start actually not judging yourself. Because the biggest problem is that we are constantly angry with ourselves for being angry. And when we just let that drop and we stop caring about even what we think of ourselves. Because it's not true. We think that what we think of ourselves is the truth. No, it's not. It's absolutely not. You're also thinking in a very linear and a very restrictive sort of fashion about yourself. You don't know who you are and what you're
How
capable
much
of.
of that is your own imagination
Absolutely, and the stories
shrouding the
that you're
truth?
telling yourself, and if you're even slightly mildly creative and imaginative, oh my God, the stories you're going to tell yourself and the person that you're going to believe yourself to be is insane. And you're none of it. On you're mostly none of it. Who I thought I was, I'm not. Forget what people think of me. That's irrelevant. It's an image that they've created, and I couldn't care less beyond a point, you know. But so yeah, to it's as simple as that. Yeah, you just have to shed the skin. There's a reason snakes do it. There is a reason nature created that.
Another poem on that note. This one.
Short story.
The poem called Short Story.
You want to know how I feel? Then hold my hand. Don't look at me through that storm in your eyes. Don't question me with that veil on your heart. Just hold my hand. Let go of the story. There are moments.
I'll quote another favorite poet, writer of mine, Agnes Varda. She said, also a filmmaker. She said, if we opened people up, we'd find landscapes.
You can't hear you.
If we opened people up, we'd find landscapes.
Beautifully said, yeah.
One more. And then I'll open things up.
Tied up or I'm empty? Dog here, okay. Tied up. The heart was talking to you again this morning. Gentle whispers of love. I don't know why it does that. Waking up tied up to yours. Two hearts clinging to each other, just like that. I couldn't tear them apart. They won't listen. They don't have minds like ours to be able to control how they feel, to scare them with fearful thoughts of loss, betrayal, failure. They're just holding on playfully, irrevocably, unafraid. I couldn't tear them apart.
We're at a time, I mean, we always have been, but currently it's a brutal time in the whole world. And the other reason that my poetry is dried up is when I see those images from Gaza. I don't know what I can do with a poem. So even if I sit with a pen, the pen just ends up giving my fingers an ache, but I can't put one word down. What does one do with poetry at a time like this?
You're so right. The same is happening to me, but I think I've identified why. Because when you're in the middle of that pain and confusion and chaos, you're unable to put it down. It's only when because you have to numb yourself to an extent to be able to deal what the world is going through, to see visuals of children being bloodily murdered, people being blown up, constantly to see those things. You have to numb yourself to go about your day and do your work and selfishly live your life. You're not sitting in that pain. We are not allowing that pain right now because we don't have the courage to do it or the bandwidth to manage it. We don't have it. The world is so broken right now that we are unable to allow ourselves to take that energy. We are fearful of it, and rightfully so. Because we don't see a light at the end of this tunnel right now. And when you're feeling like that, you can't write. You can write when you can sit down and have the courage and allow that pain and know where to take it. We don't right now because we're just too lost. Goodness is lost. Souls are dark. There's just so much loss. It's hard to allow it. We would not smile or laugh. You know, you go through phases and days where you feel guilty for laughing. You feel sad because you're instantly saying, look what's happening there. You know, all the time. And it's very hard. I'm unable to write right now as well because, like I said, when you're in the midst of it, you cannot. Sitting in an onslaught, you cannot. You need stillness. We don't have it right now. We don't have the luxury of stillness right now. Unfortunately, we have the existence of social media, which has snatched that away from us too. To write, to feel, to be, you need stillness. That is the weapon that you need at this point. And that's not what we have right now.
Untamed, everybody. Sandhya, Mridul. Get your copy at the bookstore. If we have another minute, anyone has one question, we can take one question for Sandhya.
Sure.
Hi, Sandhya. First of all, I have to say that you look lovely. It feels as if you're stuck in time. Now, when I say this, I don't want to age shame, but I grew up watching you on Sony TV, if I'm not wrong. You had this character that you played, twin sisters, and you were so cool as, I mean, I loved that show and absolutely loved your poems. And it is so, like, I don't think it's come from, trying to create a poem. You've just written it out. So all the very best. I just want to say that you look lovely.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Can I say one last thing? I wanted to say this in the chat, but you get so intense, I didn't get a chance. So we were at Goa airport once coming back together, and there were innumerable people who came up to her one by one, said, Sandhya, Mridul, can we have a photo? She said, I'm not Sandhya, Mridul. I'm like, what? She said, no, that's my twin sister. And I believed she had a twin sister until I realized she riffed off that show.
For many years, people believed I had a twin sister called Vinita. And only thing I used to do was
And you were Vinita.
I was Vinita.
Nobody
so
knew where Sandhya
whenever
was.
anybody met me, I was Vinita. Because I was always, in spite of how I looked and my bubbliness and all of that, I was actually a very socially anxious, shy person. And I don't like being crowded and fawned over. Chose the wrong industry, absolutely. So I did this. And, that was also a time of landlines, and some stupid trade magazine went and put my phone number. So people were calling up, some engineer from Meerut wanted to marry me, and, things like that were happening because my show, Koshish Ek Aasha, I was the very good bahu. I was amazing. Everybody wanted to marry me. So I had to create Vinita. Vinita was actually my childhood best friend who I lost very, very young. But she was around then. Only thing I used to do, I used to change my tone a little bit. I used to talk like this because she used to talk like this. So they would say, oh yeah, आप आवाज same है, लेकिन आप थोड़ा अलग you talk a little differently. I said, yeah, she's very loud. So I got away with it for a very long time. Till my mother told me to stop it. She was very upset because I did it in front of her once, and she said, बेटा ये क्यों किया तुमने? गलत बात है, जाके बताओ तुम संध्या हो. I said, I'm not doing it, mom, too late. But I will not do it here on.
Kyunki
so,
aap untamed thi.
मैं untamed ही थी. My mom said, my boys were not difficult. This girl was a little worrisome to bring up. I was more a boy than the boys, if you can say that. I don't know. I had more injuries, more, I don't know, ridiculous things that I did. Fought with more boys than my brothers did. So, yeah. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming and listening to us. Thank you, Deva, for this lovely session. To my wonderful friend and who I'm a huge, huge fan of and I respect tremendously, Swanand Kirkire, whose session is next, and I'm sure you're going to be there for it. I'm so happy to see you sitting here. Thank you for being here. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Thank you to the festival and everybody who's made it happen. Thank you.